to our October 2022 Ask the Expert interview series. Today, I'm happy to have Dr. Jennifer Perry with us. She has worked for the Kentucky Office of Vocational Rehab, Division of Blind Services for several months, and she is transitioning to the VA hospital soon and has worked with blind individuals throughout the state. So just wanted to check in with her and talk about October being Blindness Awareness Month. So welcome, Jennifer. Thank you for coming on with me today.
Well, thanks, Jennifer. It's nice to be here today. I appreciate that you talk to me and have me on here to share some of the resources that we do have in the state of Kentucky for our civilians, for our student population, and even for our veterans. So thanks a lot.
You kind of touched on this, but I feel like Louisville is kind of the hub in Kentucky. There are services all over the state, but here in Louisville, we're blessed to have VIPS, the Visually Impaired Preschool. We have the School for the Blind housed here. And then your office, the Vocational Rehab Office. I think you all have some centers across the state, but you do have the Division of Blind Services. It has a really nice office here in Louisville that helps adults who are wanting to work and helps them kind of get career ready. So can you just tell us a little bit about the work that is done there at the McDowell Center?
Yes, absolutely. And that's the name of it. It's the Charles McDowell Center, and under the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, the Division of Blind Services. And yes, we do help adults all throughout the state of Kentucky who may need some kind of services. One thing you mentioned, Jen, is that maybe for people who are looking to become career ready, but I just want to make a note too that we also work with people who are retiring or retirees and just wanting to live a little bit more independently. So either way, someone who's working age, wanting to return to work, it might be someone who is transitioning out of the School for the Blind that's here in Louisville. It might be someone who has lost their vision. It might be someone who is losing their vision or know that they're going to lose their vision. And we also take referrals for someone maybe who knows someone who is losing their vision. We'd be happy to talk to anyone in those situations just to get some more information for them and let them know what's available. But you're right, it's a hub because we do have so many centers right here in town. There's resources all throughout the city, and they're pretty well connected. I think we try to make the connections even stronger as we go along. Of course, as you mentioned, there are other cities in the state of Kentucky, and there are other offices for the blind throughout the state of Kentucky. But right here in Louisville is really one of the larger networking and collection of agencies and resources because Louisville is the largest city. I should just to add to that real quick is the Charles McDowell Center is a center-based training facility for people who have lost vision, who may be losing vision. What that means is that instead of maybe having someone visit you in your home, if you would like some more intensive training, you could come to the center. And the only center in the state of Kentucky is right here in Louisville.
I was talking with someone at the White Cane Day the other day that you invited me to participate in.
Thank you for coming to that.
She was telling me about the center and that it's currently kind of under renovation. Had to shut down during COVID, as a lot of things did, and now it's being renovated, so they're expecting that to open hopefully in the spring of next year, she said.
That's the plan, if not sooner.
Yeah, can you just give me and everyone a few more details on how people can get involved in that? Is there an application to become one of those students per se, or to come on site and train there?
Yes, there is. There's an application. And so again, about the center, it is an 18-bed facility that welcomes people throughout the whole state of Kentucky, and occasionally we'll even welcome someone who just lives across that Ohio River, right there in Indiana. Every once in a while, someone may decide to choose Kentucky services rather than Indiana services. Every state does offer some kind of services. So Kentucky, just for some here in Louisville, is going to be closer and more convenient for someone who lives, say, in New Albany or Sellersburg, for example. So the facility itself will welcome up to 18 individuals, and that application process would go through a counselor called a vocational rehabilitation counselor. Sometimes that counselor has a different name. It just kind of depends on what your individual, your goals may be. So if you're returning to work, then it's a vocational rehabilitation counselor. And if you're thinking about just going into retirement or you're already retired, then that would be an independent living skills counselor. So you may hear some acronyms from time to time, the VR counselor and maybe the IL counselor. And just the difference between the two is they all provide the same services. It just your goal is what is the difference there, whether you're returning to work or you're just trying to stay comfortably in your home and learn a few adaptive techniques that can help you at home. That doesn't mean that if you're a VR client that you won't learn techniques on how to maintain and live in your home. Because I think everyone knows in order to successfully go to work, you still have to know how to manage in your own house, do your laundry and set your alarm clock and have your healthy breakfast and make it to the grocery store and things like that. So absolutely, we're here for the whole wide range of individual needs. And that application would go through the Office of Vocational Rehab. That's also where the independent living counselors fall under in that non-working division of it. But yes. Sorry if that's confusing.
You're fine. I'm assuming a lot of this information.
Sometimes it's the first time anyone's heard some of those words before and some of those phrases, and they don't just naturally know, oh yes, I'm losing my vision, let me call a vocational rehabilitation specialist. So helping people to know what to ask for is important.
Just in general, in your experience, kind of what are the age ranges of people that you have worked with, just to give us some idea?
Well, so me personally, I've worked with all ages. I've worked with babies because as we know that sometimes there are children who are born right away without their vision and they would need assistance and their families would need assistance. We also help those children and their families get ready to help send someone into school. And then once a child gets into school, we help teachers to adapt classrooms and to understand what's happening with that child individually and specifically so that adaptations and modifications can occur. A lot of times that student would have a trainer or a special teacher, sometimes called the teacher for the visually impaired, sometimes called the teacher of students for the visually impaired. So there's just kind of, again, just some nomenclature that you may hear. There are orientation and mobility specialists that help train people on how to use the cane. There's low vision specialists that help when someone hasn't lost all of their vision, which is realistically, the majority of individuals don't lose all of their vision. That's just what most people think happens. But actually, that's not quite true. Most people retain some vision. But then after the child starts getting into that high school age and they're thinking about transitioning out of high school, this can happen anywhere between 11 and about 15 when people start getting ready to think about what am I going to do next? Sometimes people know that they want to go to college. Sometimes people know that they want to go to work. Sometimes people don't know what they want to do. And we have transition specialists available to meet with people of all those different mindsets and abilities to help figure out what's the best path for them going forward. Once they do graduate from from high school, or even if they don't graduate, once they hit that legal age of 18, when they become an adult, this is often when adult services would be available to the individual. So that's when places like the Charles McDowell Center would come in and help people. And of course, there are other times when people don't lose their vision until much later in life. Maybe they're in their later 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s, or hundreds before they start to lose their vision. And again, the Charles McDowell Center is there for all of those civilians, as well as the veteran is there. The Veterans Hospital is there for anyone who may have been a veteran. There are a few boundaries. I don't really like to use that word, but typically you would say that the VA hospital is going to serve veterans, and state services would be for people who are not veterans. But sometimes those lines can get blurred. Just depends on if there's exceptions, because sometimes there are.
So you mentioned older adults who are losing sight. So diseases like macular degeneration, those type of eye diseases, which take vision and reduce vision, people that have those diseases are eligible to participate in these services as well?
Yes, and that's a really great question. So macular degeneration is one of the more common ways that someone could lose their vision later in life. Usually happens after about the age of 55, but it could happen earlier. It could happen more into the 80s. It's a range, and you never really know if or when, because it's not hereditary, it's not genetic, it's just something that just starts to happen. Sometimes it can be, I don't want to say prevented, but the propensity could be reduced for simple things like polarized sunglasses and UV protection wear and blue light filters on your regular glasses. Looking at computer screens all day long, turning these different filters on can help protect your retina. So macular degeneration, of course, yes, it's a big reason why people in this country do lose vision. Cataracts is another one. Glaucoma is another one. Retinitis pigmentosa, that's one that is genetic. It's one of the more common ones throughout the world. Diabetic retinopathy is another one that's very common here in this country. And anyone who may have diabetes may not think about having vision loss as a risk, but it absolutely is a risk. It's something to be very careful of. I would say there's more likely to have, the circulation issues if you have a diabetic condition, and those circulation issues in some cases can impact the blood flow to the retina, and that's what would cause some vision loss. So monitoring your sugar, just everything that the doctor says related to diabetic retinopathy is something to definitely pay attention to as closely as you can. And if it were to happen, just know that there is help out there.
So some of the services that you all provide are just training training with low vision devices, and learning to navigate with low vision in the home and outside of the home. Do you all have any type of services that go into the home, or everything is done at the McDowell Center?
There are a few services that happen in the home. A counselor could come and visit you there in the home. They can make referrals to other specialists like the orientation and mobility specialist, the vision rehabilitation specialist, the low vision specialist. In some cases, that person may be able to come and visit in the home. And in other cases, the counselor may recommend to just sign up for services at the center as soon as possible. Each person's case is going to be evaluated individually, depending on what the recommendations may be. For the veteran services, they have a very similar setup. a person would come into their home and do the same thing, try to offer as much help as possible there in the home, but could still make a recommendation to a center. The veteran services for the center-based locations, currently there's one that operates out of Chicago, and there's another one that works here with Kentucky that operates out of Birmingham, Alabama. So veterans currently have the choice between Chicago and Birmingham, maybe depending on the season. Or other independent factors. Maybe someone has family somewhere or other personal preferences and things like that. But there are center-based options for everyone. So.
Well, thank you so much for coming on with me today and sharing about some of the services that are available here in Kentucky and Southern Indiana to people who are visually impaired and blind. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with us today before I let you go?
I just want to say thank you to the Kentucky Lions Eye Foundation for everything that they do for bringing awareness to this month, the October, the Blindness Awareness Month, and helping people to get connected and understand what their resources are, because there are more than you think. And there's more that you can do than sometimes people imagine. So never say never, and don't say can't, because all of us here in blind rehabilitation help you to find a way. We'll work together to make it happen.
We'll just encourage anyone who's interested in learning more about it to just check out VIPS and the School for the Blind and the Office for Vocational Rehab, Division of Blind Services, just a lot of information on all of their websites. But I was really impressed the other day at the White Cane Day, you know, visually impaired students out there doing all kinds of things. They had the sidewalks fully decorated with chalk, yes, and just working
party.
the photo booth and playing games and, you know, and living like any other kid who has full sight, you know, and it's just
that's right.
Good to see.
That's right. People with visual loss are people. Yep. That's important to remember. Just one more resource here in the region that I don't want to forget about, because it's a big one, is the American Printing House for the Blind. That's one of the very original, and for a long time, the only printing facility for Braille production in the United States. That's not true anymore. There's another one in California, but we do have right here in Louisville, the American Printing House for the Blind, and they are another ally and resource and team player when it comes to helping those kids in school get the Braille books and accessible materials that they need and technology that's out there in today's day and age. And that all of that helps create functioning adults who are ready to enter the workforce or whatever your heart desires.
Thank you for mentioning them. And I'll just do one last plug as we wrap up. One of our programs that we offer at the foundation is our Holler and Trust program, and it provides assistance to individuals who are legally blind in the Jefferson County and surrounding counties. So we cover 3 Southern Indiana counties and then any county that touches Jefferson County. So if there's anyone watching today or listening, and you are legally blind in both eyes, we do have a program that can provide financial assistance for various things, from low vision devices. We've provided assistance with TARP tickets to get to college classes. We've provided assistance for textbooks and help with that type of things and different technology. So that is just another resource available as well that I'll shamelessly plug here at the end.
That's a good one. I'm glad you brought it up. Right. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Perry. Thank you for being on with us today. And best wishes as you transition to the VA, and please stay
Thank
in
you.
touch. And
We absolutely will. Thank you so much.
thank you, and
Talking to
have a
you.
good day.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.